morning and welcome everyone. Whether you are here in the building and managed to find your way through the road closures for the half marathon, or recovering from the excitement of the Eurovision last night, or if you're joining us on Zoom. Hi Zoomers, it's good to have you with us. And you're welcome, whether you've been coming here for a long time, and especially if you are a newcomer, and welcome to Bruce today. Whatever you bring in your heart, whether you come in sadness or joy or out of curiosity, whatever your faith or none, you're all welcome. We'll start as usual by lighting our chalice flame as a symbol of our free religious faith. And if you're at home and have a candle, you may like to light it now. Well, that's the hard part done. So a few words for the chalice lighting by Gilbert Murray and Charles Johnson. Glory be for the gifts of earth and air, and the round of the seasons, of life, of children, women and men, and of the light which calls us all together. The gift encircles all that we are, the great joy of knowing we are loved, the real knowing, no matter how enlightened we've become, visiting us with the touch of a warm hand. The irrevocable kinship with earth, a tiny ball on the edge of time, a tender openness of being infinite under the burning glory of an eternal presence. And my theme this morning is a moving experience, and you'll come to hear a bit more about that later. Our opening words are about life path. Once again we meet as we leave one week and face another. We come here because we identify with one another, and our meaning of the world within us is projected into the world without. The recreation starts here in this communal fellowship, for we always live in a social world. Let us throw away the weak skin of falseness and put on a new coat for the next. Let us recreate a world of colour and fun, of pleasure and hope, and know that these are possible, even when there are rough times. For it is up to us to be sincere, brave and resolute. Not only we ourselves face life, but so do we all. Let us just hold for a moment those we know, our friends and family and colleagues, and how we may be when we next meet them. And I'm thinking especially this morning of Suzanne, who rang me early to say that she was awaiting an ambulance to take her into hospital. So let our thoughts be with Suzanne this morning. So it's time for our first hymn, echoing some of the sentiments just expressed, and all our hymns are from the Purple Book today. The words will appear on the screen, but if you're more comfortable using a hymn book, that's fine. So the first hymn, number 33. Entering.
Open your ears to the song.
let us turn to a time of prayer and reflection. And our first prayer is adapted from one by Cliff Reed, who's a retired Unitarian minister. We hold in our thoughts and prayers all those of our church community, all those of our families and friends, and our neighbours in the wider community who may be in need of solace. For the sick, may there be healing and strength. For the distressed, may there be peace and tranquility of spirit. For the embittered, may there be reconciliation and a new beginning. For the despairing, may there be faith and rekindled joy. For the fearful, may there be courage and unquenchable hope. For the poor and oppressed, may there be better times ahead. So we reach out to all our neighbours, those nearby or afar, who may be suffering in any way. May love and life flow out through us to restore, relieve, and to recreate. Amen. And for the needs of this hour, adapted from a prayer by Jacob Trapp. For the beauty that awaits us at the turning of the road, may there be within us the wonder and the welcome of the living soul. For the trials that await us, may there be calm strength, courage to trust when mists obscure the way, faith to venture when the issue seems uncertain. For the call to helpfulness, may there be quick sympathy and a ready response. May we find gladness on our way and the reassuring presence of helpers and friends. May our desires be tempered to our needs. May we value and praise the simple and the lowly, as well as the difficult and the unusual. May humour and the gift of laughter be ours. May we be understanding, appreciative, reverent in our relations one to another, seeking to elicit another's best, and thereby our own. Amen. We come to our first reading, Step by Step, by Elena McCulver, and Jill has kindly agreed to read it for us.
My grandmother once gave me a tip. In difficult times, you move forward in small steps. Do what you have to do, but little by little. Don't think about the future or what may happen tomorrow. Wash the dishes, remove the dust, write a letter, make a soup. You see, you are advancing step by step. Take a step and stop. Rest a little. Praise yourself. Take another step, then another. You won't notice, but your steps will grow more and more. And the time will come when you can think about the future without crying.
Thank you, Jill. Very wise advice. Our second reading is from the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapter 6, and it's from the New King James Version. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is life not more than food, and the body more than clothes? Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? And why do you worry about clothes? See how the flowers of the field grow. They do not labour or spin. Yet I tell you that not even Solomon, in all his splendour, was dressed like one of these. So do not worry, saying, what shall we eat? Or what shall we drink? Or what shall we wear? For the pagans run after all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. Therefore do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. And I'll be referring to that later on. It's time for our second hymn, number 21, and it invites us to come and find the quiet centre.
Find the space where we
come to a time of meditation, and I'm going to read a short piece, and then we'll have a little silence and a chance for anybody who would like to light a candle of joy or concern. And after that, we'll have a piece of reflective music. So the short piece I'm going to read is called In These Dispiriting Times. It's by Greta W. Cosby, who's an American Unitarian Universalist. And I think for me, it's an encouragement. I know we do live in difficult times, but there are things which can encourage us, can lift us. It's not saying that the problems aren't real, because they are, but we need to have some kind of relief from that to enable us to face them. So let us join in the exercise of silence. You sit and make yourself comfortable, relax a bit, close your eyes if you wish to. Let us join in the exercise of silence for reflection, repose, meditation, or prayer. Dispiriting times in which we live, I have come to believe that the basic religious response is to refuse to be dispirited for too long. May we seek and find grounding wherever it may be found. Perhaps in the buds bursting in the air and the beautiful green foliage just unfolding. Perhaps in the grace of a touch, a smile, an encouraging word from someone else. A helping hand. A decision reached which goes well. A discovery that enlightens or encourages us. May we trust in the spirit that will not be quelled, that rises up in people from some mysterious source, energy that comes again to affirm that people matter. Their needs and aspirations matter. And the condition of people's flourishing is the cultivation of truth and, above all, love. Well, I've finally done it. No, I haven't discovered a supernova, unfortunately, not yet, nor won the lottery. I've done what some people would regard as mundane, and some of my friends regard as a miracle. I've moved back into my original home after living in the rented house in another part of Plymouth for several years. It's a long, involved story, and some of you know it, so I won't go into it here. You could say I've had a moving experience. Anyone who has moved house will understand how physically and emotionally demanding it is. And several people in this congregation have recently moved or are planning to soon. You'll probably agree that however long one has to plan, weeks, months, years, some actions can only be arranged close to the actual moving day deadline. And there's a certain amount of anxiety. Will it all come together? You know, have I remembered to do this? Have I remembered to do that? And then, as if in some strange four-dimensional ballet, because time comes into it as well, a lot happens quickly together. Those unneeded items which one resolved to sort out tomorrow, years ago, have to be given away, discarded, all packed up to be sorted out on another tomorrow at the new destination. The final boxes are loaded onto the lorry. The house door is locked for the last time, and we're off to start a new chapter in our lives. If you're lucky as I was, the removal men, and they usually are men, are efficient and cheerful. Friends ring up and offer to help and take you wherever you need to go, and the sun will shine. I was blessed that day. I really was. I think anyone who has ever moved house will remember being amazed when they discover just how much stuff seems to accumulate all by itself over the years. I was shocked by the amount I had, despite realising that I don't live as simply as I did in my first job in Surrey. Then I rented one room in a very nice house, but it belonged to somebody else. And when I decided to leave and come down here, I could pack all my possessions into 2 suitcases and a tea chest. That was when I moved to Plymouth 50 springs ago. This spring, there is a whole house full of stuff. And now at my new destination, the new tomorrow has arrived. Along with spring and the promise of warmer days, brighter days, and breezes to blow away the cobwebs and the winter stodginess, and the bright sunlight pours into the house, revealing a lifetime's accumulations. It's rather scary, actually. It really is. Compared with a lot of people, I don't regard myself as a great consumer. Shopping isn't one of my pleasures or passions, to be honest. I just have to get on and buy what I have to. I don't go out and get and spend very much. Not in today's terms. But to those people who listened to Jesus' Sermon on the Mount 2,000 years ago, my consumption of all manner of things would be beyond their belief, so utterly profligate. And that is true of most of Western society, certainly. Something like 5% of all human beings, those in the richest nations, own and consume over 90% of the earth's bounty. That's not a very good equation, really, is it, when you think about it? Planet Earth, our only home, is in a perilous state today, largely because of our Western lifestyle, which is completely intertwined with using non-renewable fossil fuels, which are being still furiously pumped and mined out of the ground. From the transportation of raw materials used in making all the stuff which modern society craves, from the clothes we wear, our food, and much else of what we consume, by which I mean use, is either based on or refined using fossil fuels. This, of course, has had a detrimental effect upon our home. Climate change, ozone depletion, deforestation, desertification, topsoil loss, radioactive and toxic waste disposal. Well, waste of all kinds, really. There is no way to which to throw it. A crisis is staring us right in the face. No one here today is ignorant of these problems, I'm sure. The question is how to respond to this overconsumption. Well, take a little heart, because a commonly discussed solution to the overconsumption is called responsible consumption or voluntary simplicity. And even before the current cost of living crisis, lots of people were latching on to this as though some sort of common consciousness had caught hold of us all at once. So people are keeping their cars longer, or changing to those which are kinder to the environment, or giving them up altogether. And shopping in charity shops, cleaning out the clutter in their lives, learning to reduce, reuse and recycle. And some stores actively encourage us to recycle our unwanted clothes, to return our batteries so that they don't go into landfill. So it's not all doom and gloom. Going back to our reading from the Sermon on the Mount, the words, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust consume," were meant in a different context. But they ring true for me this spring. The burden of all those so-called treasures was weighing me down. Some are clothes which have hung for 20 years in the wardrobe and which I am never going to wear again. Some are items which might have come in useful, that dreaded phrase, like old plastic containers, cardboard boxes. And the books, many, many books. Can anyone have too many books? Some unread, others well thumbed, some kept because they too might come in useful one day. Or the duplicate items which came from combining two households. Who really needs 3 toast racks? Or 2 extra beds which won't fit into the house? No room to move in the kitchen or the bedroom. My house, chaos and clutter, as it said in the hymn. Then there are the written words, probably hundreds of thousands of them by now. The paper they're on must weigh half a ton. I pity the removal men carrying all the boxes out of the lorry. And finally, the little treasures of sentimental value, known only to me. What a wrench to part with any of it. This aspect of the world is certainly too much with me. A spring clean is already underway. It involves a lot of recycling and parting with items which someone else will find useful. Off to the charity shop with the 2 spare toasters and the box of books which will never get read and the clothes which will never fit me again. And someone has already collected the beds and is making very good use of them, and I'm so pleased. It's a young family that needed beds for grown children, so that's great. It all feels so good, so much lighter, and more room to move around the house, but also freeing me up mentally and emotionally. The moving house aspect, it seems to me, is actually a metaphor for one's emotional and spiritual life too. To truly progress, to grow and move on as a human being, there has to be a sorting and re-evaluation from time to time. Think back to what you believed 50 years ago, 20, even 5 years ago. What are you holding on to that maybe has outlasted its use? Do we hold on to some ideas even though we know in our heads we don't really believe them anymore? I'm talking not only about one's religious beliefs, which I think most of us here would agree are particular to us and they evolve over time. So you may not believe what you did 30 years ago, but that's okay. It's all part of becoming truer to yourself, I suppose. But also outdated attitudes about things that are happening in society as well. Things that we're still hearing about in the news and we we think, good gracious, really, did that happen? Are people still thinking that way? It's worth examining why we're holding on to some of those. Do we get comfort from the old and familiar? Is it like wearing a pair of worn-out shoes? Oh, they're really comfortable now. But if we continue wearing them much longer, they're going to harm us. The shoes are going to let in water, or a hole in the sole will mean that we have our foot rubbing against the ground and hurt it. Or maybe a pair that we bought for its flashy looks is quite the wrong fit and ends up literally cramping our style. A new, well-fitting pair may seem strange to start with, and it may rub our toes a bit in the beginning. But then we find we're walking more upright and the mysterious backache has eased. So this spring may be a good time to have another look at all aspects of our lives, to keep the really useful and beautiful. Don't throw everything out, but let go of the outgrown and the outworn, to free ourselves of the chaos and the clutter and find our quiet centre. I'll close with reading some of the words which Jill read earlier, because I think we must be gentle with ourselves and take it step by step, as in Grandma's tip. And you will find that you are advancing step by step. Take a step and stop. Think. Rest a little. Praise yourself. It's very important. We don't do enough of that. Take another step. Then another. You won't notice, but your steps will grow more and more. And the time will come when you can think about the future without crying. So let's help one another too, so that we can be ready to take one more step and travel from the old to the new in good company. May your moving experiences of all kinds be encouraging and freeing and joyful. So be it. And time for our final hymn, number 125. One more step along the world I go.
One more step along the world I go. One more step along the world I go. From the old things to the new. Keep me traveling along with you. And it's from the old I travel to the new. Keep me traveling along
closing words by the Reverend Andrew Pakula. As you prepare to leave this sacred space, pack away a piece of this church in your heart. Wrap it carefully like a precious gem. Carry it with you through the joys and sorrows of your days. Let its gentle glow strengthen you, warm you, and remind you of all that is good and true, until we gather here again in this place of love. Amen.